I've been building my online business since mid to end of 2017. And it took me around 2 years of consistently posting online and trying to provide as much value as I possibly could with the resources that I had available to me at the time to start making an income or a profit through the work that I was doing. Before then, it was all investing on my end and trying to make it work and trying to learn all of these things. But it took around 2 years to start making a profit, and then it took me around a little bit over 4 years to actually fully replace the last income that I was making through my last regular full-time job, which granted, I was a teacher. I didn't earn very much at the time, and I'm now happy to share that I make more than that. So you do the math. It has taken me this amount of time to actually be relatively consistent with the income that I have coming in month to month. Now, when I first started making an income through my art skills and my artwork, I was still working at my last regular full-time job. I started selling decorative paintings. I was still participating in local art events and art fairs, that kind of thing. And I was still applying to show in the few galleries that I had close to me, which are very few. And nowadays, I make a full income doing the online thing through selling courses, through my membership, through my one-on-one classes that I teach. And I also sell original art still here and there, but I no longer do commissions because I burnt myself out doing commissions and I didn't really enjoy it. And I didn't really feel that it was a sustainable business model over time, but more on that later. With all that out of the way, in today's video, I'm gonna get super vulnerable and I'm gonna be sharing the top 6 mistakes that I made when I was trying to start my online art business. The reason why I wanna share these is because I wish that I knew these things when I was getting started myself. I think it would have saved me a lot of frustration, a lot of time, and I would have been able to focus on what was more important for me in order to grow faster and with more enjoyment and ease. Of course, everything that I'm gonna be sharing today is just solely based on my personal experience and what I have been through during this time. So jumping right into my first mistake, and this one is not starting to build an audience or grow my name online sooner. I regret not having started my Instagram until way later, way after the Instagram golden age when you could grow your audience pretty fast. For me, growing my Instagram has been incredibly slow and challenging, and I wish I had started sharing my drawings and sharing my paintings way sooner, not with the intention to sell anything, but just to start documenting my journey and start making connections with other artists and just growing my name. I wish as well that I had the courage to start on YouTube sooner, even if it wasn't super consistent because I had my full-time job that had me working overtime and I was always super busy. I do want to say I'm not a big fan of Instagram. I know how hard it is for artists to create on Instagram and to stay consistent. And this is one of the reasons why my main platform is YouTube. YouTube, in my opinion, is way better because you're creating a library of content that is more evergreen. People can continue finding your videos from years ago, and the more videos you create, the more chances there are that people are going to find you. Whereas Instagram, what you create, which can take hours to create, is only going to last, what, like a day? And then you have to create more and more and more, and it's like a hamster wheel of constant creation. I can create a full video on the importance of YouTube for artists and YouTube tips that I now implement. So if you're interested, let me know and I'll make that happen. But what I'm getting at is it is still helpful to have a presence on Instagram because it serves as a type of portfolio for creatives. And what I do, the reason why I'm able to stay relatively consistent with Instagram is because I create long form videos that I share here, that I share in my Patreon membership. And so I just take little clips from those longer videos, and that is what I share on Instagram as reels. But I rarely create just for Instagram. I prioritize YouTube. I prioritize my blog posts that I share on my website. I prioritize my email newsletter. Everyone that has an online business will tell you that if you don't have an audience or a community, then you're not going to have anyone to sell to. And so if you're starting from zero and you have no audience and you're trying to make a consistent income, that is going to be very hard and probably impossible to do. Moving on to the second mistake that I wish I hadn't done when I first started building my art business, and this one is not prioritizing or giving myself enough time to develop my art skills and my voice before starting to sell or promote my services and my artwork. Even though all of my past full-time jobs were very creative and artistic, first as a graphic designer in an advertising agency and then as head art teacher in a school environment, I never really developed my own style, my own voice. I didn't really have time to devote to my own art. And I was so busy with my full-time job. When I got home, I had no mental capacity to focus on developing my own skills. I never had some solid time to devote to my own art skills and developing my art style and voice. And I think that if I hadn't had all of these financial troubles when I was a child, maybe I didn't have all of these limiting beliefs in my head, I could have found a way to devote maybe 5-6 months to just growing my skills and finding my voice before starting to offer my services and products online. But I was so stressed about having to bring in an income that I never allowed myself to have that time. And looking back, I could have lowered my expenses even more and just given myself that time to do that, to grow my skills and develop my voice, even though I didn't have any money coming in, especially because I already had my savings built up, which were going to be dedicated to growing my business. I could have allowed myself that time, which would have eventually paid off because I would have been able to grow my business and my income faster. I developed my skills and my voice as I started my business and was learning all of these things, which was incredibly hard to do. See, the thing is, once you start building your business, you have to learn all of these things, and so much of your time goes into taking courses, because I don't know about you, but I knew nothing about business, accounting. I had to build up my time management skills as well. How to work and be productive on your own without having any due dates given to you by bosses or professors or whatever it is. You have to create your own timelines, your own projects, and stick to them and really build up your own time management skills as a business owner. And all of this takes a lot of time. And if you have to do all of that and build up all of those skills alongside building your drawing or painting skills and developing your voice, it's a lot to take on. The third big mistake that I wish I had not done when I was first starting to build my online art business was trying to grow on all social medias at once. This was a lot of wasted time thinking back, because each and every social media platform has its own rules and things that work and things that don't. And you constantly have to be learning all of these new things because algorithms are changing and everything changes. And so it's a lot to keep up with. Whereas if you choose one, maximum two, and you really devote your time to growing those two as best as you can and learning what works in those platforms and creating strategies and pivoting when something doesn't work and doing things differently to see what does, you're gonna be able to create that quality content that people actually follow you for and subscribe for. Whereas if you spread yourself too thin and try to keep up with everything at once, it's going to be very hard for you to do. I mean, there are business owners that have an entire team around them, and even with a team, it's very hard to post and manage all of these social media channels at once. YouTube, I don't consider to be a social media channel. YouTube is a search engine, just like Google, but in video form. YouTube is a place that people go to answer questions, to learn, to get inspired, but they type in searchable keywords or questions that they have, and they're looking for a video to provide that information to solve their problem, right? It's not like when they go to social media like Instagram or whatever it is, they're not actually going on Twitter or Instagram to actually learn stuff or solve problems. They're more so looking to be entertained or maybe gain some sort of quick inspiration, but not, looking for deeper information that will actually solve some problems on a deeper level. In any case, it takes time and effort and strategy to grow any single platform. And as a one-person show and business, it's very, very hard to grow more than one or two at once, especially when you're just getting started. There were so many things that I did that looking back were just a waste of time. I would definitely go back and tell myself to stop and devote that time to things and actions that would actually move the needle in some way, or even just develop my skills further. The fourth big mistake that I regret doing is something that I see so many artists do, and the reason why so many artists don't see the growth that they're looking for on social media. And this is just creating content for myself without thinking of the viewer. In the beginning, all I was doing was sharing my work, sharing my drawings and sharing my paintings, and that is fine because, as I said in the beginning, you're just starting to dip your toe in the water. You're starting to share your work. You're not really looking to grow an audience with any particular objective or, monetary goal or anything like that. That's fine if you're just sharing your work in the beginning to start getting the experience of sharing your work online. However, once you have products or services to sell, it is so important that you start providing as much value as possible for those watching your videos or seeing your posts, because otherwise you're giving them no reason to subscribe, to join your communities. If you're just sharing photos of your work or time lapses of your drawings or paintings, and you're not taking the time to share anything else about yourself, about your process, about what's inspiring you, or even teaching something, if that is something that you're interested in doing, you could be incredibly skilled and people will eventually lose interest. Nowadays, you have to provide some sort of value for people. And I've talked about this in another art business tips video, which I'll make sure to link to down below, but always put yourself in your viewers or audience's shoes and ask yourself, what would they gain from reading or watching this post? Am I providing inspiring, educational, or entertainment value for them? And am I staying consistent enough with that providing value so that they can actually come along and stay along for the ride and join me in this journey and be part of my community long term? You kind of have to prove that you have something of value for people and that you're committed to this long term so that they can subscribe to you and become part of your community. I see so many artists, unfortunately, posting their work on social media and getting very frustrated because they're not growing their audience and they're not getting any customers or clients to work with them, and they're thinking that there's something wrong with their work. They start hating the platform, etc. And the thing is that you have to think beyond yourself. You have to put yourself in your viewer's shoes or in your possible customer or client's shoes so that they can follow along. And I know that not everyone is interested in creating tutorials or educational content, but you can share about your inspiration or certain parts of your process, things like this, so that you can share more of your expertise and let people into your thought process and allow people to connect with you. People will connect with your work and be more invested in your work if you explain something to them about it. And an example that I like to provide is sometimes when you go to very expensive, high-class restaurants where you have very important chefs working there and stuff like that, which I've been to very few times in my life. But sometimes the chef or one of the staff members introduces herself or himself and explains how the food was created and why you're eating those dishes in that particular order. And all of a sudden you appreciate their work much more. You see the artistry behind it and you're able to appreciate their efforts and their expertise on a deeper level versus if you just ate the food and didn't give any thought to how the food was created. Do not fall for the idea that the art should speak for itself. Share your story, share something, allow people in, give them something to connect with, and do this consistently and you will grow your community over time. Moving on to the fifth mistake that I made when I was first starting my business, and this was thinking, if I build it, they will come. And this goes for both my website and the first art shops that I opened online, which were a complete flop. I started an Etsy shop in, I think it was late 2018 or 2019. And I am super embarrassed to say this, but I didn't have a single sale outside of my family members or friends who were buying from my shop. I fell into thinking that if I opened up an Etsy shop and I created a few listings with my artwork, that things would sell. And I quickly realized that this is not the case at all. Not even when you open up a shop in a large, well-known online marketplace like Etsy. It's always going to come down to you guiding people toward your shop and promoting your products and marketing yourself if you want to make any sales. Any single art shop that you open online involves a ton of work, and you have to be constantly updating your listings or your products in your shop, adding new ones, promoting, buying samples so that you can see and feel the quality and make sure that you're selling quality items, learning photography and photo editing because you're going to need photographs to really make your product shine, and probably even video editing because nowadays it's the best way to promote anything. It's a lot of work. So don't fall into thinking that just by uploading a few listings and having them on there, you're gonna get sales, because that's very likely not gonna happen. And same thing with my website. I am so happy that I invested in a couple of online business courses when I was getting started. I deliberately saved money for this purpose because, as I said, I knew nothing about business. I had been an employee for all my life, and I was super happy to learn that creating long-form content, whether it was YouTube videos or blog posts, was going to be super helpful for me in the long run. And so I started writing blog posts, which is an art in and of itself, and it requires a lot of time and effort, but it's very much worth it. Because again, you're creating this library of content, proving that you're an expert on the topic, that you have a lot of value to share. And through constantly creating new blog posts, you're adding all of these keywords and improving the SEO of your website that, together with your YouTube videos, really help you rank higher in Google and make you more visible. So I started writing these blog posts pretty early on, but no one was coming to read them. And so I learned how to promote my blog. I learned about Pinterest marketing. I later learned about Tailwind, which I used for years to help me schedule pins to go out every day to help me promote my blog posts and also my YouTube videos. And this is how I started bringing traffic to my website to read my blog posts. You could write the most amazing blog post that is going to be super helpful for the reader. And if you don't promote it enough and continue writing more blog posts, it's going to be very difficult for people to come across your work. Same goes with YouTube. You have to stay consistent and continue creating videos and increasing the amount of content that you have in your video library. But yeah, my first Etsy shop was a huge fail. And whenever I do decide to make my work available online again, it's probably going to be via my website, and now I have a lot more knowledge that is going to allow me to promote those pieces that I make available. And moving on to the sixth and final big mistake that I made when I was first starting my art business. And this one was not thinking long term. As I mentioned in the beginning of this video, when I first started, I was selling original paintings and I was participating in local art events and fairs and setting up my booth and that kind of thing. It was a lot of work and I didn't know if I would actually be making any sort of profit when the event ended, or after having devoted all of that time and all of that energy to painting one single piece. I worked on many commissions in the beginning, and I've talked about this before, but I felt like a machine, just like when I was a graphic designer working behind a computer all day, and I didn't enjoy it. I was creating something that I was told to create as opposed to creating something that I wanted to create, and I felt a lot of pressure to create something amazing that would make the client happy. I now take on commissions sparingly. I do sell original paintings, but they are paintings that I create because I want to create them. And this is something that works for me. I have created multiple income streams for myself, which a lot of them involve combining my teaching expertise and also my art making expertise, which now makes this a lot more sustainable for myself. I always strive to find a balance between what I want to draw or paint and what my audience is asking from me. And I prioritize my enjoyment and making things sustainable for me long term. Another thing that I don't like about only selling originals is it puts a lot of pressure on your artwork to be making all of your income for you. For me, that sounds incredibly stressful and not the way that I want to be living my life. I think it would take away the enjoyment from art creation. And I have had artist friends who have decided to go down the more traditional artist path where they are showing in galleries and primarily trying to sell original paintings. And unfortunately, a lot of them have had to go back to full-time jobs or have had to start another type of business because their income fluctuated so much. There were certain months where they were not selling any art at all. And that is certainly not a situation that I want to put myself in. My creativity would suffer tremendously if I were stressing out because I'm not going to be able to pay the bills next month. I want to make sure that I am making things as sustainable for myself, that I am creating a solid business model for myself with multiple income streams to help sustain me over time, so that I know that there is an income coming in and I don't have to put as much pressure on myself to create art like a machine, because I'm certainly not a machine and that would take away all of the joy for me. So I would love to go back and tell myself to think long term about what would be most sustainable and enjoyable, because this is a long-term thing that you have to commit to, and it takes time to build and to learn and to iterate and find what works for you. But you have to think about what makes sense for you on a financial level, and you also have to prioritize your mental and physical well-being, because that is the foundation for everything else. If you're too stressed, if your mental and physical well-being are suffering, then it's going to be very hard for you to stay consistent over time. If you're just getting started building your own art business, I would highly recommend checking out a previous video that I shared, in which I share my 8-phase roadmap for building a sustainable and successful art business. I'll make sure to link to that video and my other art business episodes down below so that you can check them out if you haven't already. If you have any questions that I can help out with or experiences that you would like to share, go ahead and leave them down below in the comment section and I'll make sure to get back to you as soon as I can. Thank you so much for joining me. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Enjoy your art practice and see you very, very soon.